Hi, Tony.
Hello. Hello. How are you doing? Okay.
Well, I'm really excited
Hey,
to get to talk to you. I haven't spoken to you since I saw The Father, which is just such an extraordinary movie. It's such an amazing performance.
Everything all right?
Who are you?
Actually, it's me, Paul.
Who?
I live here.
What is this nonsense?
I have a little personal relationship with dementia. My mom had dementia, and we cared for her for many, many years, and she taught us all so much, about the human brain, about the human spirit. And there was a shift for my mom when she fought it initially. She fought the idea of it. And then there was a shift that came when she finally accepted that she wasn't quite sure what was happening. I wonder if you want to talk about that a little bit, that being in that space of not knowing what's real and what isn't real, the dividing line of that. I was so taken by The Father and that performance that you gave because it was so well observed from the experience that I had had with my mom in dementia. What kind of research did you do for the project for The Father?
none really. The script was so good. The two scripts that had that immediate impact on me, and the one was Silence of the Lambs and The Father. It was so clearly written. Ted Talley wrote that one, and Christopher Hampton wrote this one. So I didn't have to do any research. And being an old guy now, I was able to easily fall into it.
So if I understand correctly, you're leaving me. Is that it? You're abandoning me.
Dad.
What's going to become of me?
I've observed it. I've seen it in the other families where a member had dementia, and it was painful for the family. I always attempt, especially in getting old, to really simplify the process. I don't analyze too much. And when you have a really great script, it's like a roadmap. So I just followed the roadmap, really. It was that simple. And because I didn't have to act old, because I'm old, I'm 83 now. And yeah, so my back ached and my knees ached. I'm not a method actor in that sense, but my brain was taking. I think my brain was thinking, well, why are we doing this? What are we talking about? When you have a great script, you have a wonderful cast. It doesn't have to be hard work. So that's what I'm saying. It wasn't hard work. It was easy for me. I've been around a long time, and I'm at that age. There were moments at the very last piece when the man I'm playing, Anthony, doesn't know who he is, and he's with the carer in the hospital. That began to have a profound effect on me. It was the very last day, I think, of filming. And it suddenly hit me as I was speaking the lines, we did a quick rehearsal, and suddenly it hit me with devastating force right in the chest. This is all that we forget who we are. We forget all our anchors. We forget everything.
Why do you keep looking as if there's something wrong? Everything is fine.
We'd had a reading the day before, and what suddenly struck me was my own father was in me, because I had lines written, and I said, and I'm always on to her. I said, no, I'm nagging at her, my daughter in the film, and my father was like that as he was dying. Yeah, but you don't know. Because he was frightened, he was afraid, and he was not mean, just a rascal, but scared. It took a lot of patience to say, okay. My mother would try to help me. She said, leave me alone. And it's painful to see that. And when I was doing this, it was that would come up into me. I knew how to play it because I'd seen my own father going through it 40 years before. And you think the hopelessness, the emptiness, and the sadness of it all, and the facing finally knowing that this is it, because none of us get out of this alive. But it had a profound effect on my life. Yes, it sounds so cheesy that, but it has changed something in me. It's made me very aware now how precious life is.
You have this humble speak, right, where you're able to say it's all very simple and I don't think about it too much. And I think I know what you're saying mostly is that you have to try to keep the distractions at bay and to try to focus on the simple things in a way so that you don't get distracted.
The truth for me, and I think this film, The Father, hit home to me. We did it way back just not quite 2 years ago. But it opened something in my mind that made me ponder my own life. I thought, I don't know how I did any of this. I don't know why I became an actor. I don't know why I did this. And I look back over my life and think, I did that. This came up here and that. What am I doing here? And I can't account for any of it. I can't even take credit for it. So to me, it's an extraordinary experience just being alive. I'm happier now than I've ever been at my age because I don't know how I got here. I had no plans. I never thought it out, and I've been, part of my brain is probably very simple. When I was younger, I wanted to complicate everything, but now working as an actor, I literally just learn the lines and show up and hope my instincts are okay. And that's what we did with Silence of the Lambs. I remember that script was so good. And you think, well, no acting required. So I just have such a ball doing it, and I'm so glad to be alive and still doing it. And I hope we do a bit more. Maybe we will do one today.
It does feel in some ways, watching that performance felt like it did come from someplace else, and something that's maybe bigger than you. I mean, sometimes I think I should just thank your parents for having you because you just came out that way, and in some ways the talent is not yours. You're just
nothing to do with this.
For 8 years, I have been dreaming of being in a courtroom. Now that I'm here, I'm scared to death.
I think I figured out why they built Guantanamo down there. My client, he's not a suspect. He's a witness.
So tell me about the Mauritanian. When did you do that? Was that last year?
Yeah, we did it last year. In fact, we finished, I think we finished the beginning of February, just as we were kind of getting the news about the impact of the pandemic. And so when we left Cape Town, we started being like, wow, this is getting interesting. What's going to happen? And then lo and behold, 8 months went by. I'm not sure what happened in those 8 months, but yeah, it feels like yesterday. It really feels like yesterday.
You were all extraordinary. It was amazing. And I mean, painful to watch as well. The treatment in Guantanamo.
Yeah, Mohammed's story, it really is amazing. And, you do movies for different reasons. And sometimes you do it just for the character, or sometimes because there's something about it you need to learn about yourself. And in this case, I think we were all there for him. We really wanted to tell his story because he's such an extraordinary guy. To have somebody that went through what he went through, 15 years detained in prison without being told what his charge was, after being abducted from his home by a foreign country for no reason. The fact that he emerged as a better human being, somebody who, instead of being angry after years of torture, psychological torture and isolation, he became somebody through his faith, really, that is joyful and isn't resentful and isn't angry, who is forgiving, really a better human being. And I think that's really a real testament to Mohammed's character.
This man is quite extraordinary.
He really is. And funny, incredibly funny, and happy and joyful, and loves movies. I think while he was in prison, he saw The Big Lebowski something like 80 times. So he learned English. He learned English in Guantanamo from the 20-year-old guards. So he kind of talks like the dude, He's just a lovely person. And the woman that I play, Nancy Hollander, is quite an extraordinary character too. One of our amazing civil rights attorneys who mostly has defended people who are very guilty. So probably 90% of the people that she's defended are guilty. But she believes in the rule of law and in the Constitution. She's really kind of an American hero. I worked with Tahar Rahim, who's a young French actor who plays Mohamedou El Slahi. And the actress with me, Shailene Woodley, who I just adore. It was so much fun for us because we just got to witness an amazing performance of an actor who was, not acting, but just a real transformation. And it just felt such like this little secret honor to be able to just be in the same room and to serve that performance. And it reminded me of that revelation, that first time that you get that performance. There's a thrill, I think, to being with other actors, younger people, and watching them discover something for the first time.
He helped to kill 3,000 civilians, and we're doing everything we can to get him out.
And we're doing our job.
I did bake sales for his legal fund. That's not a part of my job. My dad told me I'm not welcome home for Thanksgiving this year. That's not a part of my job.
Get out.
What?
You want turkey and pumpkin pie with Mom and Dad and Uncle Joe?
Go on, get out. Go home. You can't win a case if you don't believe your own shit.
So with the moment when she had doubt and she argued with him because of the confession, he said, "Get out." I thought it was wonderful because get out, leave now.
Yes.
But it was an essential part of your nature and your objective, which I thought was stunning. That was extraordinary.
I've never played a real person. Well, once I played a real person, but she had already been dead for 200 years, so it made it easier. Tell me a little bit about your experience with playing real people, because I love The Two Popes. I mean, that really was my favorite movie last year. I mean, it's such an incredible film and such a great transformation for you, an amazing performance.
Well, I went to Rome. They fit and put the robes on. It was quite an experience. They were made in the Vatican by the tailors, by the Pope's tailor, and I thought, I'm going to play the Pope. And then they put the hat and the white hair and all that, and I thought, oh, I do look a bit like him. I had to, a German accent, so I didn't want to push that too much. So I had a slight German accent there.
Oh, perhaps we'll find God over there on the journey. I'll introduce you to him.
The set was a replica of the Sistine Chapel. It was extraordinary, and the painting and all that. And working with Jonathan Pryce was a wonderful time. It's such a wonderful, and I don't know him that well. We're both Welshmen. Great sense of humour, and we had a joke because he was number one on the call sheet and I was number two.
Do you have anything that you do before and after shoots?
What do I do? I go my daily business. I'm a bit of a recluse, I guess. I read a lot. I play the piano, and I play complicated pieces. I'm not a pianist, but I play them to keep my brain in tune.
I like to cook when I'm shooting because, I don't know,
Oh, yeah?
I come home or I make soup or I make something, and then it makes me feel like, oh no, now I'm in my real life. That's a way for me to compartmentalize out of the shoot. When I finish making a movie or when I start making a movie, I do have certain rituals that I'll do, like, I go on a really long hike before I start a shoot, something that I just thought I couldn't do, and it makes you feel like I can do anything.
The power of the heart.
Let's face it, you're the best thing that ever happened to me.
How did the directing start? Because I saw you in Little Man Tate, and I saw you at the Grand premiere. So how did that start?
I mean, I always wanted to direct. When I was a little girl, I remember one of the first, I was on a television show, and while I was filming, one day one of the actors was the director on my episode, and I just couldn't figure it out. I just was mesmerized, and I thought, oh my God, they let actors become directors? I thought, oh, well, that's what I want to do. I really kept that with me my whole life. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I just didn't know any female directors, so I didn't know if it would be possible. When I saw a movie, I was probably like 12 or 13 when I saw Lena Wertmüller's movie, Swept Away. And I thought, here's a woman director, and I loved that film. And I thought, that's what I want to do. It's like when you get that first screenplay and you read it all the way through and you say, I could spend the rest of my life doing this movie. That's when you know it's something that you should direct. And you've directed as well.
Yes, I've directed. I don't think I have that skill that you have. I'm good with actors, but I'm always in a hurry to just do one take and move on.
I like bringing all the pieces together in order to tell a story. And I think when I was young, I was more captivated by that than anything else because I had been an actor since I was 3. So when I was younger, I was much more interested in how a camera worked and, lenses. And that kind of continued as the years went on. And strangely, I think you were saying that you're good with actors. I don't know that I'm as good with actors. I sort of rely on actors to come to the table with a lot. Hopefully I've cast the right people because I know that there's very little that I can do to change an actor's performance. I can kind of guide them a little bit like a little border collie, but ultimately it's up to them.
I don't think I have that kind of mindset that could, directing and editing and all that stuff that you did on Little Man Tate, that's beyond me.
The last movie I directed, Money Monster, was really a puzzle because there were all these different time frames that were happening at the same time, and they were all on, a lot of things were on different television screens, and they all had to be planned at the same time. I can enjoy the jigsaw puzzle of it all, I have to say. As I say, I felt like I've never had an actor's personality much to my chagrin, it does not come naturally to me or easily to me. I'm much more
Really?
of a reader or a thinker or a strategizer. You know, I'm a chess mover. Acting was just something that was my family's job, you know, my family profession in some ways that I fell into.
That's amazing. And you've never felt like an actor. You don't have that mindset, but it's just something you do it very well. You do brilliantly.
You know, I always, at least once a week, I say, oh, I'm never going to act again. You know, at least once a week, I say that. I'm also enjoying doing television a lot and streaming, being able to try new things, whether it's trying sci-fi or, you know, comedy, and not necessarily having to live with that movie for the next 3 years, and instead being able to hop into a pilot or an episode of a TV show and be able to direct that. It's been a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, good.
It's actually been nearly 30 years since we did The Silence of the Lambs. Hard to believe.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
I have a lot of really fond memories of that movie, of the shoot, of being in Pittsburgh. Jonathan Demme, of course, who passed away recently, somebody that I know we both love. Are there any specific memories that you have of that time?
I remember, I must say this, when I was in London in 1989, I was doing a play in London called M. Butterfly. Anyway.
Right. David Hannibal, one of my favorite plays of all time.
Right, yeah.
I've seen it 3 times.
My agent sent a script. He said, I want you to read this script. I said, what is it? He said, it's called Silence of the Lambs. I said, was it a children's story? He said, no. It's with Jodie Foster. I said, Jodie Foster? Yeah, okay. So it was a hot summer afternoon, and the script came over, and I started reading it. And after 10 pages, I phoned my agent. I said, is this a real offer? He said, I don't know. What do you think? I said, I don't want to read anymore because I want to know, is it enough? He said, I don't know. I said, can't read it. This is the best part I've ever read. He said, okay. He phoned back about 4 hours later. He said, Jonathan Demme, the director, who just done
Married to the Mob, I think, at that moment.
with Michelle Pfeiffer, Married to the Mob. And he said, Jodie? I said, yeah. I said, God almighty. I said, so I read the rest of the script. And Jonathan came over on the Saturday afternoon. We had dinner, and he said, I said, is this for real? He said, yeah. I said, okay. He was such a wonderful guy to work with. And then we met at the offices, and I couldn't believe my luck. And I was scared to speak to you. I thought, she just won another Oscar. And, I was and we had never
heard of you because of your performance. We didn't get to speak too much before the actual read-through, so we just sort of waved across the room and then sat down at the table. And as you launched into Hannibal Lecter, I felt like a chill come over the room, you know, and I felt gripped, and I was just too scared in a way. It was like we were almost too scared to talk to each other after that.
Yeah. Do you know what I remember about that? You know, we do the scene in the cell and all that. Mm. They're going to have lunch in that big warehouse. It was in the Westinghouse warehouse, wasn't it? Right. They're going to have lunch in that little makeup. And there'd be Ted Levine, and how extraordinary, all sitting having a meal, and we've just been chomping on each other and making life hell for each other. And you'll be having lunch in the coffee. And it didn't make any sense at all. And I thought, it's a strange world we live in. What does God make of it? So what the hell are they all doing down there? All acting. And that's why it's such an amusing game that we get up in the morning, go to a place and put on somebody else's clothes and speak lines that have nothing to do with us. And you think, what on earth is it all about? I remember being in Pittsburgh and then going to the offices, and, you know, not much to do. And they did some wardrobe tests, and I didn't know what authority I had, but the wardrobe designer said, put me in this orange. I said, no, I want a tailored one, a tailored suit. She said, would you improvise? I said, would have got a tailor to make a suit. I saw my head, because I knew what the character looked like. And the voice had come to me on the first reading in London when I read the part. I don't know why. And I said, Jonathan asked me, he said, what do you think, Helen? I said, well, I think he's a machine. He's like Hal, the computer in 2001. Good evening, Dave. How are things going, Dave? And I wanted that. So he's like a submarine, the Hannibal Lecter. And John said, submarine? I say, he just comes in like a silent shark.
That was good.
What I'm grateful to you and Jonathan, and it was the first day when you come down the corridor. And Jonathan says, how do you want to be seen? Do you want to be, do you think you'd be reading or painting or drawing drawings or lying down on the bed? I said, I'd like to be standing here. He said, standing, okay. Why? I said, I can smell her coming down the corridor. He said, and he said,
that was
oh my God. Yeah. And
it was such a
"Good evening."
special set too. It was such an eerie set, you know, that dark line with all of the different inmates, you know, all very dark and moody. And then suddenly we come to Lecter's and it's all very bright and kind of fluorescent lighting and two-dimensional. It was such an interesting choice.
Well, I remember because I was nervous when I was in London because an Englishman or a limey like me or a Welshman, whatever, playing an American serial killer. I knew that day when I thought, well, I'll just try it out. And I remember Jonathan in the distance when the camera picked me up. He said, "Oh my God!" That's it. He said, "Hopkins, you're so weird." I said, "Oh, thank you." And they wanted Billy Hopkins, the lighting guy, would come into the cell. I said, "What are you doing in my cell?" Billy said, "Oh my God." So I knew that I'd hit it. I knew I'd pressed the right button. And so once you've got that button, like Stanislavski thoughts, once you've got that little shoe or whatever it is, gives you the direction, hold on to it and go with it.
It also becomes contagious with the other people that are working with you. You know, I remember that the specific voice you had, the kind of metallic tinge to your voice. Chris Newman was the sound mixer, and he also enhanced that. You know, he was able to kind of bring that up a little bit and enhance that. I feel like we were all inspired by the book, and then each person took that inspiration to really contribute the best work that they've done in their life.
Yes, it was a wonderful time. I remember actually there was a teacher at the Royal Academy, and he was a sort of, his name was Christopher Fettis, and he was a movement teacher. And he was a civic, and he had a cutting voice, and he was critical. He would just slice you to pieces. But his analysis of what you were doing was so precise, and it's a method that stayed with me for all my life. When I was doing it, I thought, this is Christopher Fettis. This is the voice. This man was merciless. And I remember doing the cage scene when I said, no, wrong, no, try it again. And I used to speak, no, try it again. And that, to anyone, to the observer or the recipient of that, is lethal and charismatic, because you think, oh my God, there's no mercy.
But also the moment where Lecter is sitting in a chair and he's just doing this back and forth and, you know, waiting for his pupil to give him the story.
That was the teacher.
There are all these tiny details that really, I'm really proud of this movie.
Tell me about Clarice, because my first impression when I saw you before I even started, I went to see Dailies, but you were in the theatre and I hadn't even started on the film. I was waiting around the hotel. And there was the several scenes with you in the garage with the lamplight, and you found Ed Saxon's head in the bottle. But I remember, and I think Jonathan showed some other clips for my benefit, really, or for all of us, just reel together. And I remember the one when you get into the elevator with all those big FBI guys. You're there, and I thought, that's it. This is brilliant. This is brilliant, because there you are, this smaller person, this big macho male world, coming in as the hero, Campbell's hero. And that was a great, because it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's one.
Yeah, there are certain images that kind of get seared into your imagination, and you say, oh, that's the character, that's what it's about. You know, for me, Clarice, it was also about her voice, mostly because she was somebody that had been scarred by the bleeding of the lambs, you know, and the sound, and how there was nothing that she could do to help them, and she couldn't speak, and she had that child's voice. The fact that she was, you know, somebody who was scarred by that, and in that way she had this kind of quietness, that she never used contractions. You know, she said do not instead of don't, and trying to be somebody that was correct, and that didn't come from the background that she came from. That there was a lot of, not so much apology, but an almost a shame that she wasn't bigger that she wasn't stronger, that she wasn't louder, that in her past she had failed. You know, I think that was the part for me, once I understood that sense of this person trying to overcome the failure of what they were born, the body they were born in.
Yes.
I understood that that was her strength. You know, that her handicap, in some ways, that she was just like the victims. She was just, you know, another girl. So just another girl in another town. The fact that she could relate to those victims made her the hero of the film.
When we saw the dailies, the compilation of scenes that night, I remember that when you're in Jack Crawford's office and you see the photographs, he says, you're going to see Dr. Lecter and you see Hannibal the cannibal. I see, yeah. And then your respect for a superior officer in the FBI, and your nervousness and politeness towards him. You don't want to let Hannibal Lecter into your mind. And I thought this is brilliantly set up. And that scene particularly, I thought it was also brilliantly set up. And the very fact that Jodie Foster, that Clarice Starling, a woman in a man's macho world, you know, strength and brutality, all that helped me. I remember on that Sunday before we started work on the film, and I remember thinking, that's why Lecter pays you great respect, because it's, so Jack Crawford sent you. Interesting. And he must love you and admire you for doing that. Good for you. You did it. These idiots, these big boneheaded idiots around you. You are here. So we can have some fun. Gonna have some fun.
Knowing that Crawford has sent her in order to extract something from him, you know, what does that say about his relationship with Crawford? His responding to her politeness and her respect, knowing that that's what she's been taught, and yet still kind of responding to it. I mean, it's all very interesting in its small detail. And when I first was about to do the movie, I remember, you know, my mom said to me, she said, you know, why do you want to play this character who's kind of quiet and mousy? You know, I understand Lecter because Lecter is, I said, oh no, that's the beauty of the details of this film, that it's, some of the details are so small and so subtle. The subtlety of the movie in the midst of a genre movie is really its strength.
Yes. And also the relationship when Lecter is like a teacher, lover, teacher who's tough, doesn't know how to get with it. Don't try and being nicey with me. You know what you look like with your good back, cheap shoes, you look like a robe. Well, scrubbed husband. So it's like saying, when are you going to learn the real lessons? Stop being such a nice lady. When are you going to get real? Because he's 15 moves ahead of Crawford.
It's a real testament to Jonathan. You know, I love Jonathan. I know you love Jonathan. I think that what I loved about him most is that he could be so silly. That he was, you know, with sometimes his big Hawaiian shirts, and, you know, he'd play crazy music, and he just had always this big happy grin on his face.
It is extraordinary. It's amazing.
It has been a life-changing adventure for both of us, I think. You know, number one, because of the characters, because of Clarice and Hannibal, life-changing characters, but also everything, the aftermath.
Yes, extraordinary.
And I love it, how that movie has touched people. I'm sure you still get people come up to you and say, you know, would you like a nice Chianti and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do.
Thank you, Clarice. Thank you.
I don't know if it's possible that your work gets better as you get older, but it seems to me like you just keep getting better and better. Do you feel like you're accessing something now that you're older that escaped you a little bit more when you were younger?
Yes, I do really. It's become easier because I'm older and I've got a lot of experience at it. I'm seduced at learning lines. I learn the text, and then, you know, I can improvise. Because once you know it, my only theory is I'm not a method actor. I have all good respect to Lee Strasberg, and, you know, that's the way it is. But for me, the thing is the text, the words, and once they're in there, it's like eating fava beans. Once you devour the lines, then you can free to move around and improvise within it to make it sound real. And so it is easier. And I enjoy the so-called hard work process, which is not hard. I enjoy keeping my brain active.
Are there characters and performances that have stuck with you that you've had a hard time kind of moving on from?
Oh, no. I move on very quickly. And I look at my life now and I think, how did it happen? And I, you know, every day I just think, well, I don't know. I'm still here, and I look back at it all, and a lot of it was done without me. It was like I have a feeling I got onto a big vehicle somehow, or a big train somewhere. And yes, it took me on a journey somewhere, and I didn't know. I can't account for any of it.
Amazing, these adventures that we get to have, where you get to learn about something that you didn't know enough about and delve into it through the character. And then, you're able to walk away from it 4 or 5 months later, but you also have these extraordinary relationships that you get to have on screen. When you were talking about your relationship with Jonathan, these people that you've met, my relationship with you when we were doing Silence of the Lambs, so much of what we do is in reaction to each other,
We're like carnival people.
Yes.
You move on and say, oh, goodbye, see you again Monday, never know. And then you show up some years later. And that's a wonderful life. That's why I feel that so lucky, because they actually pay you to do it as well. And I think that's where you and I and in our business, we are lucky. We have this thing to fall back on.
All right.
Bye, Clary.
Bye, Tony. Bye, Dr. Lecter.
Bye, Clary.
See you later.